Sign up to The Economist for in-depth curated expert analysis of world events and topics ranging from business and culture to science and technology. You'll get the weekly digital edition, online-only articles, curated newsletters on politics, the markets, science, culture and China, and full access to The Economist Podcast Plus. The Economist is independent journalism for independent thinking. Go to economist.com and get your first month free.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Savaged, unfiltered. Your host, Michael Gardner.
Today's show, welcome. Today we're joined here by a doctor here, and I'm going to get into her expertise. She's being joined here from her network, Speaking Freedom TV. Welcome to the show. This is Dr. Kaci Chamone. How are you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing pretty well, and yourself?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing very well. It's been a while since we've had you on. For the folks that are not aware, we have had Dr. Kaci on the show when we were the Patriot Angle podcast Unfiltered. But, quite recently we had to rebrand our show due to the content that we're putting out every single day. But if you want to catch that show, folks, you can go back to episode 282 where we discuss politics and mental health. But today we're going to be discussing about struggles and strengths. And I see that's like literally right up Dr. Kaci's alley there. First, before we get into that, there's a little bit about your educational background and what the doctor basically stands for.
And in my studies, I felt it necessary to, I started out without credentials, of course, and I just studied. I went to school. I got my bachelor's in applied management with the emphasis of psychology after taking several courses in banking and finance, computer software. I kind of dabbled in a lot before I honed in on psychology. So once I got my bachelor's and I really started developing myself and developing my books, I felt it necessary for me to go ahead and further my education with credentials, so that people could trust me, not just because I went to college, but also because I've studied intensively to help people individually.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like you tackled life. I mean, on all, in the beginning of your life, you kind of, seen it, hey, it didn't work. Let me go somewhere else. So, I mean, that's amazing. And you
savaged, unfiltered.
I didn't want to become a therapist because it's a lot of conflicts with therapy. One, I like to practice confidentiality with clients. So my goal is to not have to be summoned or subpoenaed to testify. If I was to have a client that told me something crazy, of course, I wouldn't want to protect anybody that's abusive or anything like that. But there are other things that people might not want to be, discussed at a later time. So therapy does not give you that. And also therapy is, as a therapist, anybody, they can come and take your license, but as a life coach, you are your own entity and it's not censored or, nobody has control over what you do in that aspect. But also as a therapist, the goal of a therapist is to keep you coming back. Is the more I keep you coming back, the more I get a check from your insurance or your personal savings or whatever the case may be. So my goal is to create people who not only I don't want to help you make just one decision. I want to help you make continuous good decisions for the rest of your life. So if I teach you how to train your thought process, how to make better decisions, then you won't just make one decision. You won't need me every time it's time to make a decision. You'll begin to understand how to make the best decisions for yourself every single time. So my goal is not to create codependent people, but self-sufficient people that.
Hey guys, if you're looking for a steak, I know it's hard to find steak, right? You know, a lot of restaurants that just overcooked, undercooked, just not to your taste buds, right? You want that juicy steak. Look no further than Omaha Steak. I love them, guys. Love them. If I didn't love them, why wouldn't I be promoting them on the podcast today? Go over to Omaha Steaks, okay? They are phenomenal, guys. The juiciest steak you'll ever taste in your life. Okay? A lot of people are like, well, how does it get delivered to your house? You know, with gnats and bugs going to get into it. And no. It's not, you don't have to worry about all that. It is in a sealed, perishable bag delivered to your house. So you don't have to worry about the gnats and the bugs get into it. It's fresh from the time they ship it from their distribution center to the time it arrives at your house. The juiciest steak you'll ever have in your life, guys. Check them out today. Omaha Steaks. They're phenomenal.
Unfiltered.
Their purpose, in their thought process, and overall in your life. So the concept of bringing people together spiritually is really based on teaching people to love and accept themselves. Because if the more you love and accept yourself, the easier you will be on others as far as accepting others for who they are, being able to love people from where they are, because of course, you know that you've had your own issues. You know that you've had things to work through. And instead of being in denial, like most people in religion are, I call it Christian denial, where they literally act like things don't exist and things don't happen and try to put on a facade of perfect, like Jesus and religion is a magic wand. And if you just, put your wand on it and abracadabra and everything is perfect.
Now you got into a topic just now. Mm-hmm. You mentioned spirituality. You mentioned religion. Now that seems to be striking our nation, our society very strongly, where it's breaking the church apart and it's dividing, I believe, the church, and we see that on a lot of different backgrounds. Okay. I had an episode not too long ago where I decided to talk about the dividedness in the church today, with some of the struggles and some of the strengths, and it's going to kind of tie into the topic today that we're discussing on the show. Now, do you see some manipulation being involved, through some like evil groups, or because a lot of people see it as evil groups. Now, I hope this doesn't offend any of the listeners by saying this, but I see it as, hey, we all have different backgrounds. We all believe differently. We all have different types of opinions and thoughts. But there's something that strikes me quite rationally here, Dr. Kaci, is the latest, I guess you could say, dark paths entering the church communities with the latest, LGBTQ plus. I see it as manipulation and driving the church away from its divine purpose. Do you see that at all?
So if we're being undivided, literally, whether you talk about it from a white and a black aspect, or if you talk about it from the different sects within Christianity. You have Lutheran, you have Baptist, you have Catholic, you have a lot, and this is how I got away from religion. Well, one, when you study psychology teaches you that it's a math mind control type of thing when you get into religion, because they teach you how to think and what to think and what's okay and what's not okay. So it shapes society. But religion also, the church church is religion, and religion is church. There is not too many churches that you can go to that's not religious based, that's not our way or the highway, that's not, if you don't like what we got to say, then you will ban you from here.
Oh, sure.
So
But what I'm saying is, some of the behavior that we're seeing today, and I understand, we're in the 21st century and things are done differently than they were, possibly maybe in the 80s or 70s, but, I have this thought on my mindset, and a lot of listeners, came to me, through my blog and through other platforms, and basically voiced out their opinions as well. And it kind of, struck, a nerve, on me, where, some of this behavior that we're seeing in the church.
The behavior that we see now is just things that was hidden before. It's almost like when you look at social media, we're not seeing new things. We're seeing things that wasn't visible prior to now. Homosexuality has been in the church on every single scale that there exists, whether it is, you think about priests and Catholic priests raping young boys, or if you think about pastors and leaders taking advantage of women. It's always been there, whether you think about choir directors or have normally been the flamboyant gay guys that have been that had to have a woman by their side to keep their secret safe. It's always been there. A lot of things that we're seeing is just the mask is being taken off. It's like I said, when you live in a state of denial, it's easy to think that things don't exist. But when you begin to wake up, it's like, I had a friend once, and she had a granite countertop, or a countertop she thought was granite. And what she realized one day, she was wiping it off, and she realized that it was just dirt. All the time she thought she had granite, and she started wiping it good enough, and it was a painted windowsill that just had dirt on it, and she ended up wiping the dirt off. So once you start wiping the surface clean and you start cleaning the surface of things, it's like you seeing in a cup that's got a dirty filter on it. If you start cleaning that cup, you're gonna see what's really in the inside. And I believe that right now in society, we are seeing what has been hidden. People now, there is a lot of perversion. I mean, when I say perversion,
without a doubt. I mean, we've seen an incident here, and I brought it up to my show. What you're talking about right now. With I'm sure you're well aware of the Dallas, Texas event that happened a few months ago, with the parents, and it's still going on to this day. But just different areas of the country. But I want to use the Dallas, Texas event where, Fox had put a segment on this, and all different types of platforms and networks, where the grooming part is becoming an issue here in the country, and that is that strikes my heart very severely, because obviously you and I are close in age, and we come from practically almost the same generation. In our generation, we would look at as a disgusting, radical set of behavior. Like a child should be learning its ABCs, 1, 2, 3, patterns and everything. You shouldn't be teaching a child,
sexuality, not at that age.
Exactly. Yes.
So in the Black community, a lot of times there are things that happen that is swept up under the rug. Some of those, what goes on in this house stays in this house, whether it's financial troubles, or whether it's an uncle, cousin, brother, or sister or aunt that touches children, but you can't say nothing, and it just kind of goes away. And I'm sure it doesn't just happen in the Black community, but I can.
We see it. Yeah, we see it in the white community as well too. I mean, it's just about every community. Whether it's Asian community, white, Black community, Hispanic community. I'm sure they have
the same issues.
Exactly.
But oftentimes you're told not to speak on it. So the grooming happens. It happens in the ways that we rarely ever think. I know I had a babysitter that was a little bit touchy-feely, and that's where it normally starts. Somebody close to you, or somebody that you think that you could trust, or your parents think that they can trust, and they leave you around the wrong person. And before you know it, there are things happening that should not be happening. And because it's our little secret, you don't think anything is wrong with it. You think that this person is making you feel special, and that's not always the case. It's just now because I had an uncle. He passed away several years ago, but he was a homosexual. He was a gay man, and so I think that it was something again that was just hidden. It wasn't. Now I don't think that they were starting out massive the way it is now. I've definitely been offended watching some TV shows and it's 6th and 7th graders kissing on TV and all this crazy.
Oh yeah, it's erratic behavior, But I think like what's going on right now is, like you said, it's getting. I think it's getting a little out of hand, and I'm sure you can, yeah, and a lot of this has to do with putting, you have to put the blame on the parents. Yes, the parents are to be blamed because there has to be correct teaching, right and wrong, and that's how children learn later in life, without a doubt. Maybe that would take care of some of the mental illness that we see in our country. But also, too, you also have to put the blame on the education system of some of the stuff that they're teaching in schools today. Mm-hmm. And also, a lot of this stuff is being manipulated into our regular households through mainstream media, as well as social media. So there's a lot of key issues that we have to tackle. We're talking about struggles and strengths. The struggles that I think that we're seeing is exactly what I just mentioned. Now, the strengths that we could strengthen this to make it a more, you want to live a loose, free society. I get it. It's okay. Okay. But some of the strengths that we can overcome all this without having any diversity issues or having any divideness. We can learn to do this. I don't know how, but we can learn. Do you have any thoughts on the strengths?
So I think that, man, it is difficult because I think the problem is we're trying to please everybody. And pleasing everybody helps no one at all. So, and because everybody is easily offended, you can't correct people without it being, you hurt somebody's feelings or it being censored in some way, shape, form, or fashion. The struggle is that we are losing freedom of speech. And
every single day.
Oh my God, it is ridiculous. It's like losing freedom of speech. And then
hey guys, if you're trying to look for an organic product, right, you're getting tired of using the over-counter medication that's filled with chemicals, filled with all those nasty cancerous ingredients, guys, head over to liverishi.com. That's right, guys, liverishi.com. What is Live Rishi? It's an organic CBD oil company that uses natural hemp oil in their products, guys. As you can see, I'm out and about right now. You develop a rash from walking in the park, grab that Live Rishi cream with you, rub it on there. I'm telling you what, guys, it's going to work like wonders. It's going to work like wonders. Use promo code SAVAGEDUNFILTERED for 20% off your entire order, guys. And I'm telling you what, that's a great deal. 20% off your entire order. LiveRishi.com. Grab it today, guys.
Savaged Unfiltered.
Censored, but then there was a total lack of censorship as well, because when I was growing up, nobody said ass, damn, shit. None of these cuss words were ever on TV. It was certain things.
Here, Dr. Kaci, let me just cut in here. I think, then, in our generation, I want to go back to the correct teaching. There was more teaching being involved by parents. Okay. You knew damn well that, if you were going to act out in your house, one or two things were going to happen. You're either going to get grounded, or you're going to get slapped upside the head, or you're going to learn better that you're not going to make the same mistake ever again.
Well, a lot of times you can't do that, or parents are scared to do it. One, because somebody else might call children's services on you.
Yeah.
But now a lot of these things are being used as weapons. I know people talk about Karens a lot and all of that, but people use children's services on people as a weapon as well. It's not just people calling the police on colored people or stuff like that. People use things that are supposed to be there to help as weapons to belittle and take away from people. So it's hard to find a strength when people are creating struggles. If you can't spank your children, if you can't correct your children, if you can't say certain things to your own children, then how will they ever learn? And a lot of times people aren't learning because you cannot correct your children. And then when I was growing up, if I did something wrong, anybody on my street could tell me no, stop, and spank my butt. But nowadays, if you tell somebody's child no, they're wrong or anything like that, then guess what? They're gonna cuss you out. You might get shot nowadays because people are bunkers.
Exactly.
People are losing it. And I think the pandemic made it worse because isolation is not good for everybody. Because
But here's the thing, Dr. Casey, where do you think that went wrong at? We're talking about now these days, you can't do that, because we live in a society where, parents are more scared of their children now than ever before. Like, where do you think that breaking point, how did that come in?
So if you abuse your power, then you lose your power. So if a parent, there was a time when some parents probably still are overly abusive or overly strict. So, you beat your children instead of just spanking them to correct them, you're taking out anger on them. So now when you just spank your child, people think that it's an angry thing versus no, they need to be corrected. It's just like if you go to the grocery store, you got people in there, the kids be running amok. And but if in your family abuse is a thing, if your mom used to cuss you out all the time or used to beat you with a belt or switch or extension cord or any of those things, then normally that person either is as abusive or they flip the switch and become totally like, I will not hit my kids, I will not do this. And then they miss the generation of correction because sometimes it's like I told my little cousin's wife the other day. Sometimes when you have small children, especially about 4 or 5, like I never cussed at my children or never, cussed around them for a long time. But then they started being a little bit too bad. And I used to say, sit your ass down. And they would be like, oh my God, she's cussing, something is wrong. And it would scare the living daylights out of them.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, when I was a lot younger, my mother would yell and scream and holler and literally, I mean, we were almost like terrified of my mother, my brother and I. And she'd say something and she would say, tell you, I don't want you turning the TV on. It's school night. You got to get into bed. You got school tomorrow, and that voice, you know what it was? It was that voice, when you heard something, that was it. The voice literally set it straight.
Some people experience that. Some people come up in balanced households and they have respect. They have all of these things. And then other times you got to think about the people that come from drug addicted parents, that come from parents that's totally neglectful. Sometimes it's not narcotics or crack or coke or heroin. Sometimes the drug is work. Sometimes the drug is church. Sometimes it's just the overindulgence in anything that takes your attention away from your priorities. So a lot of times, even when people that are raised in church, you got people in the church that are abusive, not just sexually abusive. You got people in the church that might whoop your kid and then they did too much or whoop them too hard or, was too aggressive. Yeah. And now you're sheltering your child from being whooped from anybody. You know what I'm saying? So it is it's a crazy world right now. You're
not telling me anything new. Yeah, we're seeing, stuff in this world that we could have never imagined, especially there's so much, I don't like to use the word divide, but we're becoming a divided nation. a divided nation on a lot of different types of incidences. Whether people want to play the race card into it, or they want to put economic as my words today, it's out of control. But like if they want to put the race card in it, or they want to put oh, I have a better job, but how come he doesn't have a good job, or this and that, like it's out of control. It really is. And I think, as a nation, the nation in the world, like, why do we have to act this way? Because when we act this way, what does that set in the rest of the world? Like, other nations must look at us as a national embarrassment.
I mean, if you really think about it, the way that the United States was formed came from great violence. The world was built on great violence. So the violence part, doesn't shake me, or doesn't. What it is really that, again, we're starting to see things that were hidden before. So being able to visualize things makes it worse, because now we're actually seeing it. It's one thing to hear about something. It's like hearing a rumor. You could hear a million rumors, but until you lay your eyes on what they said existed, it's like, oh, they just talking. They don't really no. And then you start seeing it, you're like, hold on, no, this is a real thing. This really exists. So I think we're starting to see a lot more, but in order for things to get corrected, it has to be exposed. So you can't make things better if you don't know what's wrong. And we are a nation built on Christian denial. It's a lot of facts from the formation of this country that are hidden, that aren't completely, forthright being told. So when you get people to start, and now you got the internet where you can find out things that you probably couldn't find out before the internet, because if it wasn't in the book that they gave you, you had no idea where to look. And now you look for stuff. You can order books that weren't available right at your, like, you didn't, even if it was available, even if it was in the library, your public library, you didn't know to look for it because you didn't know where to start. Now you're in a place where people know what to look for. They can figure out where to start. And now the information that was hidden in the denial portion of who we are as a country, whether you're talking about Native Americans, whether you're talking about slavery, whether you're talking about the Confederates, whether you're talking about the public Republicans versus the Democrats, because from my understanding, the way we see the Republicans and the Democrats now was actually switched in the beginning. It was complete opposite. So it's a lot of things that, if you are fed information, then it conditions your thinking to be a certain way. Now,
I think that's what we're seeing today. I think we're seeing more of the conditioning, rather than the rather than that, what we should be seeing it as. We're being more conditionized, from media, from
a mixture. You have the things that we've been conditioned to think, then we have the truth being unveiled, and then you have the media and other entities that want to still instill some other type of conditioning. So they know the truth is coming out. They know the history that we've been taught. They know what we are used to. And now every day is programming. That's what the TV tells you. What programming do you want to watch today? So every day we're being programmed. It is, what do you listen to program your mind? What are you programming your mind based on? So the struggle is, where I come in, is thinking, purposeful, knowledge, understanding, getting truth. My truth may be a little bit different from your truth. Your truth may be a little bit different from some of your listeners' truth. So it is then it's those things, and then it's learning how to apply the truth to your life so that you can make the purposeful changes that you need. The strengths come from being able to see the truth within your own life. not just what you've been told, but weighing what you know, what you've been told, with what you can verify, like fact checks. Now, some of these fact checks on
It's like I have to scratch my head on some of this stuff. Like, how the hell is? I mean,
but like it's a lot of things like with COVID that was fact that the fact checker was saying, oh no, that's wrong, but now it's coming back. Like I just was reading something the other day where a lot of the things that they were calling conspiracy thoughts are actually lining up to be what it really is as far as COVID and the vaccines and all of these things. So it's a lot of things that in order to keep people in control, you have to literally tell them. There are some people that don't know how to think on their own. There's some people that will never ever, even if you showed them the truth, if you could verify the truth, they still wouldn't believe the truth, because they are reliant upon what the media tells them. Until you
you
break
know,
the stronghold of that, they'll always believe what the media says, despite the truth being right there in their face.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have a couple minutes here, and we're gonna close it out here on the show. You touched on something. With in the last couple of years, we've seen that take place, to control right over the people, the manipulation, the brainwashing, and then just in the last maybe 3 years, we've been introduced to these fact checking claims, right, where you can't say anything. Well, you can say certain things. Let me rephrase that. You can say certain things on the internet, social media, what have you, but certain other topics, there's like a bar that gets basically put on your account. Mm-hmm. Where if you want to learn more about COVID-19, please go here. Where they're basically telling the entire world that the person that's making this claim, whether it's myself, you, or anybody else in this world, they're wrong, and the fact checkers are right. Mm-hmm. Like, I when I seen that, I had to laugh my ass off, because I'm like, all right, this goes back to when I was in kindergarten, and my kindergarten teacher would say that, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Everybody has a fantastic, unique, different way of looking at that answer or that question. And that's how we looked at it as. Now it's like, the narratives today in the world, they go after certain narratives. And that narrative should never be discussed, whether it's COVID-19, monkeypox, social distancing, masks, all those little narratives, right? They pick out narratives now in our society. And those narratives, I think, and you're probably going to like this part right here where I'm about to bring up, those narratives are literally becoming like a digital virtual weapon against the people. And I'm starting to see it like that now.
A lot of it is fear mongering. It takes something that puts you in a state of fear, and it uses that to control you. It's just like, I remember a while back, I heard somebody say the way people acted when COVID happened, or when anything that makes people afraid, and they go buy all the gas, they go buy all the tissue. This is the reason why they don't tell us about aliens for real, because people don't know how to act. They react. There's no proactive thinking or thought process behind anything. Is just panic. People panic so easily that it's easy to weaponize anything and make people scared.
Well, maybe the little green men could change the planet for once and for all, and then we wouldn't have all these problems. But
in order to change the planet, or in order for things to get better, normally things get a little bit worse, because you have to expose what's wrong in order to make it better.
Yeah, I've heard that before, once before, and it's just it's everything that we're experiencing now. It's very frustrating. It's frustrating. It's tiresome. And you go to scratch your head on a lot of this. Dr. Kaci, I'm going to close it out here with you. Wow, this conversation was very intriguing. we got into spiritual growth, and then we got into struggles and strengths, which I'd love to have more of those topics on my show, but it's always hard to find the right person to discuss this with. And, discussing this with you, I mean, you seem to be very on top, and, you seem to be very much glued to all of this. If any of my listeners or followers or any new listeners that are listening to the show want to follow some of your work and some of your content that you express, where can they find you at?
Well, my website for Speaking Freedom TV is speakingfreedomtv.org. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it is Speaking Freedom, and speakingfreedom.org, edu-freedom.org to find more out about my books. All of my books will be available on all audiobook platforms, as well as the workbooks are available on Amazon. Really, really soon, they will be available on all audiobook platforms. We're just waiting for those platforms to make them available. They've already been submitted and accepted. So I am out here, Dr. Kaci, Kaci, again, speakingfreedomtv.org.
Great stuff. Thank you for joining us today on today's show. Remember, guys, if you'd like to hear this podcast in its full entirety, you can hear it on any major podcast platform, including Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, now on Amazon Music, as well as Alexa and Google Voice. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Dr. Kaci, for joining us today on today's show.